Welcome back. Another adventure up in the UP. This time I'm walking the South Shore from Humboldt, just kind of behind me in this area, to, hey, there's a spike, to where they crossed over what was the LS&I back in the day. The segment that I'm actually walking on right here, the WC pulled out and obtained track rights onto the LS&I through what's left there right now, through North Lake, Diorite, all that fun stuff. And then they actually just laid the track into up here, this junction that we're coming to, and went up to Lance and Baraga. Early 2011, 2012, 13, somewhere in that ballpark. Mineral Range came on board, obtained the track from the LS&I, and relayed the section to a processing mill in Humboldt that the LS&I pulled out previously in 97, 98, somewhere in there. So, behind me is east. If I turn to the west, you can see right in there that the tracks are still in, and we'll get in there and talk about that in a little bit. Okay, so this track right here, that is the Mineral Range to Humboldt. Go that way to Ishpatucky, and you head that way to go to the new mill. This was all relayed, like I mentioned, in 2013, 2014. Google Aerial still shows it being relayed, so whenever that imagery was taken. The line over there, that is the CN line, and you can see they come into the Mineral Range right there at the switch. This was actually just after they severed it, just a nice curve that they built after they removed the diamond that was right here. Back in, I believe it was mid to late 80s is when they removed the diamond. You can still see evidence from the signaling system that was here. I haven't seen any photos of what, well, there's the base right there. Helps to look. There's the base from probably one of the signal systems. Be nice to see what kind of setup this used to be. But this would have been the South Shore WC Sioux line to continue back to Ishpeming, which was now the iron ore, or it is the iron ore heritage trail now. So let's go ahead and sneak around and see what we can find, if we can find anything else besides that cool base over there. Oh yeah, right here. It's like another footing or something floating around in the weeds. Neat. So there's indication on the timetable. It begins Mineral Range track warrant control. You got to get a track warrant if you're operating on the Mineral Range. So it is joint trackage from that point to Ishpeming. Kind of neat little outfit. I don't think they're going to be selling this anytime soon. If they do, I'm guessing that it would probably be taken on by Watco, since they just are in the process of acquiring the other UP lines and other CN lines around here. Who knows? Maybe it'll go to Mineral Range. But yeah, pretty neat to see. You can see track's actually not in that bad shape, but this is our recent build. But to go straight, the diamond, of course, would have been right there. So, thumb around here, see if I can find anything else cool. So, current train operations on this CN branch that goes to Lance, 549, Monday through Friday. I think they're every other day service up to Lance and back, and the Partridge and back. They are 10 mile an hour from what I understand. Mineral Range is a Monday through Friday operation, or as needed. Sometimes they come out here on Sundays and service the mill. Seems like Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays is usually when they come out to the mill too. So it's either dead or it's busier than it can be with a couple trains. So that's really it for out here. Trains no real activity, no other switches or whatnot. Mineral range does continue to Humboldt, about another 1.5 2 miles up there, crosses 95 or 41 and then M95, and then goes to the Humboldt mill where they do other processing. So we have, you can still see there's some code lines popped up right there. The old right away, they're still popped up pretty much. Here's the base with some wires hanging out of it from where the signal would have been for the diamond. I'm guessing that would have been probably the stop indication. Yeah, because that wouldn't have been anything else. So that would have been the stop indication for the diamond up here. Yeah, you can see right here too, we still have an insulated joint on the rail, which they just decided not to remove, which why would you? So insulated joint there. Oh, insulated joint right here too. So yeah, this would have definitely been the track circuitry for the signal for the diamond. So do not pass go kind of spot right here. Actually would have been right here, because if you would have gone past this, it would have dropped the signal and we would have been in some trouble. So I'm gonna try to look for some timetable stuff and see what I can find out with any old operations with the signal and the diamond and whatnot in there. Drop some links in the description of some history, some pictures of it, but we'll see. You can see there's the old sign, Humboldt Junction, 500 feet. I don't know if that's old or new or what it is, but yeah, it's there. Couple things I always notice too, walking around train tracks, especially in Michigan, we got this snake grass. It's pretty neat. Obviously it's called snake grass because it looks like a snake, but it's usually doesn't grow much higher than that. It's all usually there on the banks. I think the railroads, from what I was told by a former roadmaster, the railroads like to plant it because it would grow really quick and it would hold back the right of way from erosion and whatnot. So you usually see this around watery, marshy areas, but it's not to say that's the only spot where they planted it. But pretty neat little species of grass if you're ever model railroading, to kind of maybe go into detail and see, you know, just the things you notice. A little outline of some track structure is pretty simple, basic stuff. Of course, you have a railroad tie. The fasteners right here, these are rail fasteners, and they keep the track from moving too far away from a tie, kind of keep it anchored. They're called anchors too. Of course, you have the tie plate right there, the spike, and then the actual rail. Different types of anchors. Of course, you can see those ones clamp on and they just wrap on the bottom, and they do is they just hold the tie or the rail, clamp onto the rail. They're in between the tie and they keep the rail, when it shifts, from moving too far one way or the other. Other little things that you have is these joints. You heard me talk about the insulated joints up there, but these are the normal joints that you have. This is a 4-bolt style. You got one on each side of the rail, and it just connects the rail together. This wire right here is a bond wire for signaling or whatnot, and they're usually at the joints because, of course, if that gaps, you're not going to have any way to make the metal connect for the electricity to flow through if you had a signal system. So bond wires, you see these at railroad crossings too. And then one stick of rail out here is going to be 39 feet long, pretty averagely 39 feet. And the joints are going to be staggered. There's one here, there's not one on that rail. But you're going to come up here and there's one right there, but there's not one here. So they stagger it, they off-center it. Reason they do that is because they have what they call harmonic rock, and that's when the train's going at a certain speed, it just rocks back and forth because of the joints. and if they were right next to each other, it'd be kind of a bouncing wavy effect. You'd get rails that would bend and whatnot, but when they're staggered like that, you get harmonic rock at certain track speeds. That's why you'll see track speeds either 10, 20, well, 25, or 30, just depends on the railroad and speed, fuel consumption, yada yada yada. But harmonic rocks between, like, I've heard between 13 and 18, all the way from up to 22 miles an hour. So get in there, cars start rocking and rolling, and they go really quick, and they can tip over. Happens quite often. So another part of a railroad track is, of course, ballast and the roadbed. You'll see the roadbed is lifted up out of the swamp, and it's what they call the right-of-way. You've heard me talk about that before, but it's usually ditched on each side, keep the water and stuff off. Ballast is there. You want good drainage to the rail because you don't want a whole bunch of water through your track, because when you do that, you start rotting out the ties and whatnot, and it's pretty expensive to start repairing that. This is actually fouled out ballast. You can tell because it's got a whole bunch of dirt and grime and everything mixed in with it, but the drainage is pretty decent. I can tell that it's sinking in right here when the train goes through. They probably should tamp it and put some more rock through here, but the track actually has a list to the right here, which makes sense because you got water right here, so the track structure is actually sinking down on this side. Now, there are track specs, regulations, and everything that a track inspector will look for and abide by every time a track inspection is done. I can see on the top of the rail here, I don't know if you can make that out on this one or not. You can see the little wavy kind of over here. That's where the high rail truck would have came through. And high rail truck is what they do, basically any kind of pickup truck equipped with gears for the front and back that sit down on the rail between each side, and they ride the rail, use the power of the truck. So Bella just went in a nice little mud hole, so she is nice and covered. You're Brat. So while on the topic of road beds, you can see, of course, this has kind of got newer ballast in it. Track actually leans to the left here for the curve, and that's what they call a little bit of a super elevation curve. They do that to take wear and tear off of the rail. Slower speeds, you know, you're going to get more wear on the inside rail, but you'll see faster track speeds, and the super elevation will actually tilt a lot more, and that's just to kind of keep track or the train actually planted to the rail. Pretty neat, ingenious. I mean, it's one of the reasons I enjoy railroading history, because there's so much technology here that's been here since it started, and it's all right in front of you, and people just kind of like dumbfounded to it, really. So yeah, you get some of that super elevation going on there, you know. And as I mentioned, slower speeds gonna wear your inside rail for this particular curve, which is probably not bad because it's on a curve. You can actually see the rail wearing on the, as you go through, you can actually see the rail wear on this one versus this one. This one's mushroomed a lot more on the top of the railhead, and the inside of the rail is wider versus this one, which is more curved here and it's skinnier. And that's because all the train weight and the wheels wants to push off and go off to the outside of the curve, so it's putting all the force on this rail right here as the train traverses it. So those super elevations will help keep that down. The slower speeds here is probably what kind of kills it, which you're going to get that coming to a start and stop with the switch up there. So there's no real way around it. You just let it wear out, and then when it gets too bad, you can take the rails and actually flip-flop them, put this one over there, that one over there, and you'll wear this side of the rail over there and vice versa. So I've seen that done too, but whether it's preferred or not, I don't know. I'm not a track guy. I'm a transportation guy that's been in a couple track classes. Kind of neat too, you can see all these different shades of ballast that they got. This must be like the original local, looks like Jasper light from the local from the area. CN probably brought in, or WC brought in some kind of a ballast train, or maybe CN's brought it in since then, so you got a little bit different color, more of a granite. Same for over here on the newly laid mineral range. It looks like it's not local rock. It's, you know, come in probably truck or rock train or something, but you'll notice that when you get around a railroad, you'll see different color ballasts, and you know, they might have done recent track work, and you can kind of differentiate that from, you know, the different colors of ballast. You can see way down the line there they got some gray, so it looks like they recently dumped a bunch of stone down the main line over there. Pretty neat. Some other features you'll see in track, you'll see numbers on the side here. Got a 112, I think it's, yeah, 112, and then you have the, it looks like a 1 REOH COL A, yeah, Colorado's. So how you read rail is you have, this is a 112 pound rail. It was built in Colorado, and the year was 1937. Beyond that, you'll see there are hash marks. Little hash marks right there. There are 1, 2, 3, 4. So January, February, March, April. So that is how you read rail and what year it was built. So this is a 112 pound rail built by the IREOH company from Colorado in 1937 in April. Pretty cool. Over here on the Canadian National, you have 90 pound rail. It's built in Ohio at the Lackawanna company in 1949. You can't really make them out too well, but you can. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think 5 hash marks. So that would have been May of 1949. So quite funny. This rail right here to there is newer than this, which this one was laid well after this. So you'll get that. You'll see that on derailments and stuff. That they just bought relay rail. It's not brand new. Relayed it back down. And railroad track lasts a really, 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 really super long time. And the story that I ended up hearing when I was part of the Mighty Rangers was this all came from Wisconsin, somewhere down by Milwaukee. There was an old industrial spur that was getting pulled up, and it got relayed and brought up here. So definitely cool that another technology thing is with the railroads, or recycling stuff, recycling rail, tie plates and everything else too. So pretty neat. One indicator when you're floating around these old junction points, you look in the weeds, you might find some random cool stuff. I know the first time that I came here, we found a bunch of insulators in the weeds. You can see there's a bunch of ties just stacked up floating. Sometimes, you know, you might actually find the diamond just laying in the weeds. You might find some excess rail. You know, you just never know. Kind of kicking around where they do. I mean, no one's going to be out here messing around with it, so they might need it in the future, so they just plop it down there. Mostly you're going to see, like, what's in there is just a bunch of railroad ties, tie butts. You know, those are kind of harder to dispose. They're getting better at it, but back when this was pulled up, that was just throw them off to the side. In addition to that, you might find, like we saw these signal bases over here in the weeds still. Hard to remove, it's not hurting anything, just throw it off in the weeds. Signals might get left out sometimes. Usually they don't, because it's aluminum or steel and they want to reuse them or recycle them, so there's some money to them, signal heads and whatnot. But yeah, just you never know what you're gonna find until you start kicking around. So as you can see, we're heading east from Humbolt Junction, and the base was on this side on the South Shore leg. Scratch that, reverse that. The signal was on the other side, the engineer side, this side. So as I'm walking eastbound that way, I'm gonna look for the signal base on what would be my conductor side, or engineer side if you're traveling westbound. See if I can find it and get back with you. So no luck finding it. I did find this little indent that kind of goes over and then back in. I'm pretty sure it was right here. And then I'm thinking about it, when we were up by there, that concrete base that was over there, I think that was planted here and they just removed it, because this was gonna be, or this was a snowmobile trail. So before the mineral range re-put their track back in, the snowmobiles used to come up from Republic and Humboldt, then they curved through here, and then they would zip down through here. So I'm sure that they probably removed it for safety reasons. So that's probably gonna wrap it up for this video. Just a quick little short one, kind of going through some railroad stuff. Got any questions about any railroad stuff, let me know. Don't be afraid to explore old railroad grades around your neck of the woods. You tend to find them, and they'll be zipping off into the woods too, on ones that aren't even on maps and whatnot. And you never know what you're gonna end up finding. Usually you're gonna find a bunch of spikes and tie plates and all sorts of goodies that you might think is cool. Maybe you won't. I don't know. Speaking of cool stuff, can you see it? Can you? Oh, it's on this side, right there. Right there. An old cold line pole. And I don't know if you can make it out. Kind of got some glass insulators still on it. So those are pretty neat. I got a bunch of them. Anyway, that's gonna do it for me. Thanks for watching. See you next time.